So thank you, Christoph, for inviting us and translating today for us. I start with the project we did with some students last semester in Trieste in Italy. Throughout the world, there have been and there still are and there will be projects dealing with the question what happens with big areas in the cities which used to be industrial areas and are not in use anymore.
Proyectos estudiantiles y ella va a presentar un proyecto de la transformación urbana, entonces siempre hubo y van a ser proyectos de transformación de áreas industriales, áreas baldíos en diferentes partes del mundo.
When it comes to projects of urban transformation within former industrial areas on the waterfront, which have been used as harbors before, you may know the following project like Barcelona in Spain or Copenhagen in Denmark, Oslo in Norway, or in Germany there's the big project in Hamburg, and in Italy, for example, there already has been transformed the old port of Genova in Italy.
She ahora nombró algunos de los proyectos, quizá algunos de ustedes conocen, un proyecto de la transformación de un puerto viejo en Hamburgo, un proyecto en Genua por Renzo Piano, etc. Entonces hay una serie de proyectos.
So I want to show you an example of an old harbor which, for different reasons, mainly political and economical, has not been transformed yet, the Porto Vecchio of Trieste. Students of our school, the Technical University in Munich, have worked on this subject and during the thesis project. And I want to show you two examples of how they took the opportunity to create new public space within their design project.
Ella va a mostrar el ejemplo del Puerto Viejo en Trieste, un puerto que por diferentes razones no fue transformado hasta ahora. Va a mostrar proyectos estudiantiles de tesis de arquitectura tratando del espacio público.
In order to understand the tasks the students have to deal with, I will give a short introduction giving you information on the city of Trieste in terms of geopolitical location and its significance within Europe, and as well that you have an impression of the atmosphere and the quality the established city already has.
Ella va a hacer una pequeña introducción sobre la ciudad de Trieste, si ustedes entienden los contextos y también qué ambiente hay en esta ciudad.
Trieste, you see there in pink, is a city in the northeastern end of Italy, right at the Adriatic Sea. It has about 200,000 inhabitants right now, and the interesting thing is that it's a decreasing city. The reason for that is that all the young people, they move away and they move to the rest of Italy, because basically you can see it there. It's really in the outskirts of Italy. It's in the far border, and they move away to the rest of Italy.
It's a quite small city in the northeast of Italy. Okay, es una... Ya dije que no soy un traductor profesional. Ya dije. Bueno, es una ciudad en el norte-este de Italia. En el norte-este de Italia es una ciudad chiquita con 200,000 habitantes y es bastante interesante porque es una ciudad en disminución. Es decir, que es una ciudad con una nula expansión. Los jóvenes están dejando la ciudad para trabajar en otras partes de Italia. Una razón es porque está realmente a la frontera. Ustedes vean que está al borde realmente de Italia.
When you look closer at its direct neighbors in the actual political situation, you see that due to the enlargement of the European Union and with the new members, which are Slovenia right next to it, and Croatia, which will be within the next years will be a member of the European Union, Trieste gets the chance to become again the melting pot in the middle, or quite in the middle of Europe, which it used to be, with a lot of different cultures, languages and religions living in there and working and living together.
Al otro tiempo ella veía una posibilidad para Trieste, porque Trieste Con la apertura de la Unión Europea, hay los vecinos Eslovenia, Croacia, Australia. Eslovenia y Croacia van a ser miembros de la Comunidad Europea bastante pronto, entonces ellos esperan que Trieste, como era anteriormente, podría ser un nodo de desarrollo en el futuro.
So this is the map of the city, showing its actual conditions, how it's worked. You can see it's a city developing along the waterfront, and in the back there are fairly high mountains coming. I mean, it's a middle of hills and mountains, and in between there's the old city with the old city core, and this is a city development of the 18th century with a very rigid grid of very urban city blocks. And this is the old harbor we're dealing with, and it's empty or it's not in use anymore, because this one is the actual harbor in this whole bay, which is in use. Oops.
Aquí vimos la estructura de la ciudad. Es una ciudad vieja con las montañas en el fondo. Vimos los dos puertos, abajo es el puerto nuevo y arriba es el puerto antiguo que no está más en uso. Y vimos el centro histórico, un barrio antiguo con una estructura bastante rígida a su lado.
So as we speak here about public space and public square, we want to focus on this. Trieste has, from my point of view, a really interesting different types of public spaces you can see here. So it's for example, embedded, closed public squares within the city grids. Here, or at points where different structures of the city meet. You have these structures, or you have a linear space along the waterfront. I don't know what's happening here, sorry. So I don't want to touch it. And so the public squares there are some really close, there are some connecting with the water where you have the point of view facing the water.
Bueno, el tema de la plática es el espacio público, entonces ella quiere enfocar en el espacio público. Dentro de la estructura de la ciudad, el espacio público está bastante marcada, está en diferentes posiciones, sea enfrente del mar, sea realmente dentro de la estructura, en nodos del tráfico, y sí.
By looking closer at this public squares and spaces I mentioned before, you can see by the numbers and read there. The public space is always connected with a public building, and this is a thing that's really interesting or important, I guess, and not only for Trieste. It works for every public space, because it's not only the public space doesn't end with the facade, or doesn't end, or it's not just the white surface in this plane. In this slide, it's basically the interfering of public building and space, how they do deal with each other and how they give life to each other.
Bueno, si vemos el mapa y vemos los nombres, se nota que hay siempre una relación muy directa entre el espacio público y un edificio importante, y esos edificios importantes dan también importancia, relevancia al espacio público.
So some pictures that you know what we're talking about. So this is the development of the Theresian city. I mentioned before. You can tell it's really dense. It has those narrow spaces of the streets, and it's you can see where the person is crossing. There's one street crossing. Where the car is crossing, there's another street, and you can really feel you're embedded within the buildings.
Bueno, es una ciudad bastante densa. Ellos muestran imágenes, si ustedes entienden el ambiente de la ciudad. Entonces, viendo y esta persona y acá se ve realmente cómo la ciudad casi está encajando las personas y las calles, etc.
And then again, the public spaces, the squares are really open in comparison. And I will just go through some of them. This is the one on the water with the public building, the church at the end of which, at the end of this long square where you can face the water. Or this is the one where the town hall is at the end, and with the big pier. The big pier, which is also a very common place to go to during the day and night, people from all ages.
Estaba mostrando diferentes espacios públicos porque es bastante interesante. Tan cerca y tan densa es la ciudad, cuando se abre la estructura, empieza el espacio público con una cierta amplitud, y vimos ciertos ejemplos, entre otros, por ejemplo, la plaza donde estaba la alcaldía, y otra plaza que vimos donde estaba el malecón, ¿no? Un malecón bastante amplio.
So we move now to the Porto Vecchio, which is a chance for urban transformation. You can see the Porto Vecchio over there, which is within walking distance from the actually established city. And it's interesting because you have these super dense urban blocks, and then with a certain geometry facing the water, and then the waterfront makes a turn, so you have also different geometries meeting each other. You have the one direction and the other one. So this was one point for the students where they had to deal with how to create a connection, because we didn't want to have again an island within the city. It had to be interweaved within the texture of the city. How can this right now gated area become part of the city and manage to have some communication?
Para explicar un poco del entorno y también el carácter del Puerto Viejo, entonces el Viejo Puerto. El Viejo Puerto es una área segregada, cerrada, pero al otro lado está ubicado casi en la rodilla del mar, entonces una posición bastante importante. En la vecindad a esta estructura rígida que está vista aquí al lado derecho abajo, una estructura rígida de edificios viejos.
So here you can see it again. The dotted line shows the area the students had to deal with.
Aquí es el área al lado de esta estructura densa, muy densa, donde los alumnos podrían intervenir.
So some images here of the actual situation. You can see that there are magazines which are of high quality somehow, even if they're not, they still have to be restored. But it's the space in between already works. Not always, but in this specific area it's really interesting. Or here you have, again, somehow already streets that could be part of an existing city, and you see in the back the boat, so you see the water, or you see the context of the city always.
Bueno, aquí vimos un poco de los edificios del Puerto Viejo. Son vacíos, pero no obstante son edificios con una buena calidad, que también ofrecen espacios abiertos con una cierta calidad, y ellos vean estos espacios interesantes.
And then at the point where the site meets the city, you already have big public buildings. So the pinkish one is a theater that used to be a bus terminal and is in use, or there is this very interesting buildings which face the new part of the city, so that there could be some connection. It's not a dead end, so it's a very interesting part where you can start to continue the city.
Okay. Y donde el puerto termina, casi siempre hay edificios importantes. Por ejemplo, anteriormente mostró una estación del tren, entonces está la zona de la transición del puerto y hacia la ciudad. ¿Esto es otro edificio de qué?
It's from the Theresian development city.
Bueno, es del desarrollo de la de un cierto tiempo.
So this is the train station, which faces a big square, and in the back there's developing the site. And from this side it looks like a potential, while when you are on the tracks, you see that it's actually a disturbing point, because there's a big wall behind the tracks dividing the city with the water. Especially if you're in the city, this is the situation. When you're in the city, you have this big road, you have the wall, and behind the wall there's the water somewhere, but you just don't feel it when you enter the city. So this is also a point where it becomes interesting.
No, she está mencionando e indicando la situación directamente al mar. El mar casi no es notable porque, como ustedes ven, hay una pared más o menos alto donde los carros pasan, y la relación al mar mismo está bloqueada.
So having all that in mind, the melting pot situation, the structure of the city, the geopolitical reasons, this all potentials, the students started to design the projects. And the first project I want to show you is called Porto Vecchio Asks for a Dance by the student Xenia Tsuyeva.
Sabiendo todo esto fondo temática y la estructura de la ciudad, ella va a mostrar ahora proyectos arquitectónicos urbanos de los alumnos, y el primer proyecto se llama El Puerto Viejo Demanda para Bailar. Está de Sueña.
So this is the model she produced, and I will show images out of her drawing. So her approach was really interesting, because she looked at the whole context I mentioned before, with what is the potential in a small scale and then a big scale for the city, and she looked at the urban development through the years, and how the topography is important for the city, or how the city deals with the waterfront and the public buildings, the things I showed you before. That's what she also find out in her analysis process.
Su análisis de estos estudiantes está casi idéntico con el análisis que ellos hicieron. Entonces, este alumno hizo un acercamiento al proyecto tanto micro que macro. Entonces, la visión micro fue un poco como la relación de los edificios con el agua, y la visión macro fue más como la ciudad se relaciona.
So with all these points she found, she produced this master plan, which you can see the brownish line is basically the linear space she found, and she keeps, I try again, no. Not working. So she keeps continuing. She takes this linear space and alongs it along the waterfront, and puts public buildings on it, or a park actually on the big pier, which is on the right-hand side of the site. And what she also did is she moved the train station. It's not up there anymore where it used to be, but it's where you see this long orange stripe with the tracks coming. And with this move, it was really intelligent, because she basically had 3 new chances. The first one, I would say, is that by producing a new train station in a new position, she moved it closer to the water, so she could connect in a big hub the train station, the bus station, and the ferry terminal.
Bueno, su concepto se basó en diferentes elementos. Un elemento es un elemento lineal que está visto más o menos en el color café. A través de este elemento lineal del café están ubicados los edificios importantes. Y otra cosa que es bastante inteligente, el chiste quizá de este proyecto, fue cambiar la estación del tren que estaba arriba a este edificio lineal en naranja abajo, y esto ofreció nuevas posibilidades, y con esto ella podría acercar los nuevos edificios, la estación del bus, del autobús, etcétera, etcétera, más cerca del agua.
By moving the train station a little bit away from the city, and away, it's not really far, it's still walking distance, she gets to the point where she automatically activates her strip, her public strip, because the people still have to go to the train station or the bus station or the ferry station, and automatically all her public buildings which are along her public strip are used. And the third thing that's the big advantage is that by moving it, she doesn't have the barrier she doesn't have the barrier anymore in the north or on the top of the site, but she can connect it by putting in front of the existing buildings other dwellings. So she has houses, she has communication, and this works pretty well.
Bueno, hay diferentes ventajas. Por ejemplo, uno es poner la estación frente al agua, también atraiga a la gente directamente al corazón de este nuevo desarrollo, y también con esto también hay una cercanía más importante a los otros edificios públicos que están en este desarrollo lineal. Y la otra ventaja es que cambiando la estación se quita la frontera, se quita el obstáculo entrar en esta zona del Puerto Viejo, y se puede desarrollar nuevamente a través de viviendas, por ejemplo.
I will flip this. So when we look at her focus, we always ask the students to make a big master plan, produce a big master plan, and then to focus on one certain point where they have to tell somehow a story, what can happen in the city. So the focus point is where she has one of the big public buildings, which is a learning center, again reminding of the story, melting pot, languages, cultural interest coming to the city. So this is the big one on the pier, connecting visually to the old city and the sea, but also to the new quarter she created. And as well, you can see that by drawing it and with showing the ground floors of the ground floor, the inner life of the ground floor, you can see what's happening even there. And again, it shows that it's the square is not only the square, but the square is the square together with the functions you have. So even though she has a lot of housing in this project, the ground floor has also always a special function. It's public. It's office space, or it's shops, or it's a hotel, and or she has here along the water she has sports facilities, so that the people of the city, and not only the people moving into this new quarter, but also every inhabitant of the city can use this new quarter and take part of it.
Bueno, resumiendo, la método del trabajo fue hacer un plan maestro y después enfocarse en algunos edificios. Aquí vimos un plano que muestra la planta baja. Eso es bastante interesante porque no muestra los techos, y esto es importante porque se muestra que hay una relación entre los edificios y, por ejemplo, también aunque son viviendas, normalmente en las plantas bajas hay funciones públicas, o hay tiendas, o hay un hotel, etcétera, etcétera. De tal manera, el espacio público no es el espacio fuera del edificio, si hay una relación directamente con los edificios mismos.
So at the end, this is the image she created, where you can see the existing buildings, the magazines on the left, which are now open, so there is the possibility to enter, to use it. Then there's this linear space where there's cafes and people dancing, and then there's the steps, so you can even touch the water, which right now can't happen in the city because there's no steps going down. They have the public building, and you see the lights of the existing city.
Bueno, y aquí vemos una imagen, vemos a gente, vemos el malecón, vemos los almacenes que ahora están abiertos, se abren al pasillo. Vimos los edificios públicos en el fondo y vimos gente. Podemos ver gente bailando.
So the second project I want to show you is called Spine, and it's by the student Claudia Knepper. And this is her model.
El segundo proyecto que muestra se llama Spine, algo como columna vertebral, y esto es la maqueta.
She did research as well, and are more like icons she produced for her actual design projects. On the far left icon, you can see it's how she she doesn't have a linear space as the student before. She has many smaller public squares which are always visually connected with the water and with the city on the other side, and they are somehow spread over the whole site. And the image next to it shows again public buildings dealing with the public space.
Bueno, aquí vimos algunos esquemas conceptuales de la alumna. Entonces vimos en esto los espacios públicos y su relación tanto a la ciudad, hacia el mar, y los otros son los edificios públicos grandes y su relación al espacio público.
The last two images just show why it's called Spine, the project, because the dark blue line going through the site is basically the point where the spine is the actual, it's the big road where all the cars will pass, and it's building the spine not only in a thematic way but also in a volumetric way. So the last one shows, I think it's not really easy to understand because it's just really small, but along the spine are the big buildings, the volumetric buildings, and then they decrease in the height and in the scale towards the city and towards the water. So you have basically a form like this along the spine, and the spine is where most of the life takes place.
Bueno, aquí está explicando a través de las últimas dos imágenes porque está llamado columna, la columna vertical, spine, porque hay una eje muy importante, a través de este eje se mueve el automóvil o los automóviles, y hay pequeños calles que conectan este eje con la ciudad y con el agua, y también a través de los volúmenes esto se refleja. Hay los volúmenes importantes, grandes, al lado de este eje, y de allá se disminuyen los volúmenes de los edificios.
So this is the master plan she produced, and here you can see the difference to the other project I showed you before. She has the public space is in the site, and it deals with existing buildings and new buildings. The existing buildings are mainly the long ones that are there, and the courtyard houses in a big scale. The big blocks are the new buildings, and then you see the squares in it. So what happens? You can.
Bueno, aquí es el plan maestro. Vimos que hay una gran diferencia con el primer proyecto. Los espacios públicos están más espacios interiores, y eso es tanto en edificios nuevos y viejos. Los edificios viejos están marcados por su linealidad, y los edificios nuevos de predominantemente viviendas están formados como bloques.
So this is her final image, and here you can see it's not dealing so much with the water. It's more dealing with the history of the site, with the magazines, and there are old buildings, new buildings of different scales and different styles, and I think it makes it believe that this could work actually.
Bueno, esta imagen muestra su idea. Su idea no se basa tanto en el agua, se basa más en la relación con los edificios existentes, y esta imagen, como ella dice, da la imagen que podría funcionar.
That's it.
Well, first, thank you, Christoph, for having us, and thank you, the faculty, for showing us around your very exciting city. We're really happy to be here. I'm going to present you a project which was not a thesis project, but a project for 3rd to 5th year students, and it was on Balco San Paolo in Rome. And the difference in teaching the thesis and the younger students is they get a lot more consultation, so we see them pretty much every week.
No, primeramente él dijo que está muy contento, está aquí, les gusta mucho la ciudad, para ellos la ciudad está bastante estimulante. Ahora va a mostrar otros proyectos en un nivel un poquito más bajo, como yo entendí, y la gran ventaja es que en estos momentos, ¿dices también? No, ¿es en Masterprojekte? No.
This is masters.
Okay. No, está también proyectos de tesis finales. Y eso es la gran ventaja mostrando estos proyectos porque hay una intensidad mayor entre los profesores y los alumnos. Realmente ahí se trabajan juntos bastante dinámicos.
We call the project Città Aperta, referring to the movie of Roberto Rossellini from 1945, because we thought it's a very interesting title to have an open city, to have a campus which is open to the city, and to have a city which has open spaces and has public spaces.
Su proyecto tiene que ver con el campus, el área estudiantil en Roma, y el título de su proyecto se refiere a una película de Roberto Rossellini, Città Aperta, Ciudad Abierta, porque a él les gustaba la idea de crear un campus estudiantil abierta que se abra a la ciudad.
And another project in Italy from our university, it's been in Rome, and we had a very interesting lecture yesterday about the capacity and quality of public spaces within Forum Romanum and the whole city of Rome, which is an amazing city.
Entonces, este proyecto tomó lugar en Roma, para ellos es una ciudad muy interesante. Él no entra más, por ejemplo, a los detalles de la estructura, porque ayer, a través de Maruja Redondo, tuvimos una cierta introducción sobre la estructura romana de la ciudad. Pero sí, para ellos una ciudad muy interesante y bastante densa.
Okay, as they were, we also backed the students up with a theoretical background and referred to the article Transparency of Colin Rowe and Slutsky, which was first published in 1967, which is concerning the multiple degrees of private and public spaces.
Bueno, ellos también se acercaron a través de una cierta introducción teórica, y una de las referencias fue un libro por Colin Rowe en Slutsky sobre la transparencia y las escalas múltiples de espacios públicos y privados.
Coming out of this article, transparency, however, implies more than its optical characteristic. It implies a broader spatial order. Transparency means a simultaneous perception of different spatial locations. Space not only recedes, but fluctuates at a continuous activity.
Bueno, entonces aquí hay una cita dentro de este libro de Colin Rowe y Robert Slutsky. La transparencia, en cualquier modo, implica más que un carácter óptico. También incluye un orden espacial a la frontera. La transparencia significa una percepción simultánea de diferentes sitios espaciales. Espacio no puede could be restrained, but could be also fluir en una actividad continua.
The idea of transparency, not only in a literal but in a phenomenal way, is shown in these plans drawn by Nolly, which exceed the public spaces into the public buildings and versus vice versa.
Aquí vimos un poquito la relación de transparencia que ellos mencionaron sobre el fenómeno, tanto literalmente como físicamente, y vimos dos ejemplos.
As we realize that mass and void are part of the figure-ground relation, it's very interesting that these two elements relate, and we're actually interested in these voids, in that sort of spaces which are either outside or inside, and which sort of connect and interweave the structures.
Esto es bastante interesante. También fue lo mismo en la imagen anteriormente. Trata de la relación entre la masa, el volumen y el espacio abierto. y sus interrelaciones.
That's a quote of Minister Russia saying there are principally no private spaces, there are just different degrees of publicness. I mean, that can be discussed.
Esto es una cita bastante interesante que puede be discutido de Paolo Méndez da Rocha. No sé qué piensan ustedes. Hay siempre, él dice, predominantemente al principio no hay espacios privados, solamente hay diferentes escalas de publicidad.
And referring to the idea of Slutsky and Row, we really enjoyed to visit Hotel Camino Real by Ligoretta, and as I said, we really enjoyed to be here and to see all the fantastic architecture your country has to offer.
Bueno, y en relación de esta relación entre masa y espacio abierto, ellos muestran y estuvieron en el Hotel Camino Real, que para ellos refiere a esta temática y para ellos es un ejemplo más de la fantástica arquitectura que existe en esta ciudad.
Okay, so first when we arrived, first thing we did, we took our students to Rome because they're apparently from Munich, so that not all of them knew the city. First thing we did, we put them out in the city for 24 hours and just offered them, they had to choose in advance and they had to sit on a square and experience the square to appreciate public space and to perceive public space, because we think only if they know how to perceive, they are able to design public spaces.
Okay, esto es bastante interesante, también en relación con nuestra universidad. Ellos realmente como primer paso jalaron los alumnos fuera de la universidad y se fueron a Roma, son quizá 1000 kilómetros que sea aproximadamente, y para visitar la ciudad, porque no todos conocieron la ciudad, y como primer paso ellos se sentaron 24 horas en una plaza para percibir la situación, la plaza, porque ellos dicen, si no vas, si no percibes, no podrías diseñar el espacio público.
Of course, they took some pictures of local life, this lady just taking care of a beautiful dog, and also of the tourist life, which is very obvious in the city of Rome. So what we did, we just walked around and visited the different groups, and when they got back from Rome, these are some of the results, and they show that perception of public space is much more than just an as-built plan, but it has to do with feelings and all the themes we have already heard in this conference.
Que ellos hicieron realmente que visitaron, probaron para realmente sentir el espacio, el ambiente, porque ellos dicen, sí, es mucho más que la parte físico, es en emociones, etcétera, etcétera. Y cuando los alumnos regresaron, mostraron estos ejemplos de textos y imágenes, realmente mostrando que también ellos recibieron y percibieron estos ambientes.
And some of the students even referred to when we first started, not all of them have read the text of Slutsky and Rowe, but some apparently had, so they referred to the idea that the church is part of the square and how the urban structure of public space interweave.
Entonces, honestamente, él dijo que la relación con Colin Groves hicieron después que ellos hicieron estos mapas, por ejemplo, pero no obstante aquí también ellos están discutiendo a través de estos dibujos, en mi punto de vista muy bonito, la relación entre la iglesia y la plaza.
Okay, so finally we're coming to the campus of Valco San Paolo, and as the last project in Europe, there's a lot of conversion and urban transformation of former industrial areas into today's urban fabric.
Entonces, ahora se refiere al campo Valco San Paolo, como un área anteriormente industrial y cómo podría ser incorporada.
Okay, just quickly go through. I mean, Rome had never had a rich history of industry as other areas, so the areas are pretty small, but they are long left, and this text refers to text from 1999, and even then, Roma Tre, the university, tried to establish a campus there, but still up to now, not much has changed, so the process is going on for quite a while.
Okay. Este texto trata también del campo, parece que hubo una discusión sobre este campo desde tiempos anteriores. Este texto, por ejemplo, es de 1999, donde parece que mencionó también la posibilidad de una remodelación de estos áreas industriales en un campo estudiantil.
Okay, so now going to the plan, as you see, Valco San Paolo is south of the city center of Rome. It's lying on the river, and that's one of the main reasons why it used to be industrial land, because they had good railway connections and good connections to the river.
Okay, aquí vimos dónde está ubicado dentro de la estructura urbana de la ciudad. Está ubicado en el sur oeste y cerca al río. Y eso está bastante interesante porque esto también es la razón por que podría ser desarrollado industrialmente, porque tuvo buenos accesos tanto al movimiento del agua, pero también por vías ferrocarriles.
As the production sites have left a while ago, the university reclaimed some parts of it. In general, Roma Tre spread all over the city, and they tried to establish a campus there, and all the buildings which are red are part of the University of Roma Tre.
Entonces ya hubo diferentes intentos para establecer por lo menos partes de la universidad en esta área. Los edificios marcados en rojos están edificios de la universidad, pero no se nota una relación entre sí.
So we basically focus on that area, which is Valco San Paolo, and one of the only quality spaces which is offered is Vasca Navale, which is an old testing field for naval architecture. Pretty much they sent their boats through a line to test how well they're built, and some of it still remains there, and they try to reconstruct it to give character to the area.
Okay. Ellos se enfocaron a esta zona que mostró. Eso es la zona Valco San Paolo, y esto está marcado, como yo entendí, por áreas de construcción de barcos que todavía están allá, una área experimental. Entonces ellos utilizaron estos almacenes y estas áreas para experimentar que los barcos funcionan bien o no.
And that's one thing which is important considering the design for a campus. The campus, there are different types of campus. There's a greenfield campus and there's an inner city campus. So we had to handle with the inner city campus. And the interesting thing is, how does the campus relate to the city, and what's the synergy between the city and the campus?
Bueno, hay diferentes, este texto es interesante porque hay diferentes acercamientos para hacer un campus. Podría ser afuera, en el espacio verde, ¿no? Se dice greenfield, o podría ser en el parte interior de la ciudad. Y ellos escogieron esta segunda opción, y entonces la temática es importante, cómo el campus se relaciona con la ciudad.
Okay, so quickly going through some pictures of the situation. This is the Vasca Navale, the reconstruction of it, and the remains of the traditional building.
Aquí vimos algunos ejemplos, por ejemplo, son algunos edificios viejos y algunos edificios ya nuevos.
There you see the reconstruction from the front side and the entrance to the campus.
Aquí vemos un edificio reconstruido enfrente del campus.
As you see, it's still a construction site, it's not finished, and the public space is not open as we want it.
Como se ve que es todavía un espacio en construcción y no está abierto como ellos quisieron.
We did a site visit and we're very lucky to be taken around with Mr. Vidotto, who is a professor of Roma Tre, and this is actually a reconstruction of the building where they left a bit of the tank where they tested boats.
Okay, aquí hicieron una visita en el sitio, hablaron con un profesor, el profesor mostró los edificios, el área, esto por ejemplo es un edificio donde hicieron experimentos de los barcos.
Other buildings on the campus are still remain and have quite some character.
Algunos otros edificios todavía mantienen de la universidad y tienen un carácter fuerte, interesante.
But there's a lack of public spaces on the campus, and the only public space we really appreciated was this narrow lane where they actually have the cafeteria, and this was packed with people, but this was one of the best public spaces available on the campus.
La única cosa que ellos notaron que casi no hubo espacios públicos. El único espacio público que ellos encontraron es esta calle bastante estrecha, donde estuvo una multitud de jóvenes, pero fue casi el único espacio público que ellos encontraron.
Another topic was the river. The river is not visible. This is a picture of the river promenade, so the river can't be seen from anywhere on the side.
Otro caminata que hicieron fue al lado del río. No se nota dónde está el río, ¿no? Entonces el río por tanta vegetación no fue visible.
Another issue is the river is pretty much gated. It's occupied by a sports field of different clubs, and there's no park, which is a public space, but it's all privately owned land.
Entonces es bastante interesante. Realmente no hay relación directa con el río. Hay campos deportivos, etc. Pero no obstante, todas estas áreas que podrían ser quizá parque, son áreas privadas.
Another picture of gated areas. Another topic was the thresholds. There was no public space there. It's all gated. It's like a big mess. And our students tried to redesign the area and create public spaces.
Okay, aquí vimos áreas cerradas con rejas, etc. Ellos dijeron que fue un gran desmadre donde realmente no hay espacios públicos, o casi no hay espacios públicos. De tal manera, la idea de los proyectos fue crear espacios públicos adecuados.
The first project I want to show is a project from Ralf Brundl and Rainer Rumstetter, which is called Spinal Intelligence.
Este es el primer proyecto que ellos van a mostrar de dos alemanes sobre inteligencia spinal.
Seems to be popular.
Hmm?
Well, their idea was that they reuse the Valco,
Sí.
and on top of the Valco they have some towers which give orientation. The rest is an urban mass which is dense and which is based on a grid system to create a city which interweaves with the campus.
Bueno, Spinal Intelligence podría ser, por ejemplo, de la araña, pero yo creo que es más relacionado a la columna, una eje. Y aquí vimos algunos edificios que destacan. Yo lo veo dentro como una pequeña eje.
So they came up with this picture of having the spine as a point of orientation, and they came up with a grid system where they based the city, which is built around the Vasca Navale.
Entonces, ellos utilizaron este eje como base de su diseño y crearon un sistema de bloques, de elementos menores.
Another interesting aspect of public space in their design was that they have seen the street as a public space by just creating a shared space, not having street, plaza, and they connected it. It's just one ground, and on that common ground, there's everything. There's cars, there's people, there's bicycle traffic, and there's also plazas.
Por ellos es bastante interesante porque ellos interpretaron también la calle como espacios públicos. Entonces para ellos es como una plataforma donde podría pasar todo, donde hay plazas, donde hay calles, donde hay bicicletas, donde hay peatones, etc.
Okay, they developed different typologies and also referred to the idea of transparency by having little passages through the buildings and even taking the common ground into the buildings.
Entonces, ellos construyeron una estructura bastante densa, y aquí vimos algunos de los bloques de las estructuras, y también se nota que los edificios tienen una apertura al espacio público.
And they build a model which is both a geometrical and volumetrical and a ground floor model. So you take up the volumes, and then you can see what's happening in the ground floor and how the city interconnects.
Y hicieron una maqueta que muestra las dos perspectivas, muestra la perspectiva de la planta baja en el lado izquierdo y muestra la volumétrica final en el lado derecho.
The second project I want to show has a very different approach, and it's called Public Spaces in Between by Lisa Hugler and Anna Schubina.
El segundo proyecto es de también dos alumnos. Se llama Public Space in Between, espacio público en el medio.
So they came up with this conceptual model, and they said that the campus is dominated by big volumes. So what they said is, we're going to add more big volumes, and the important thing is the connections between the volumes, but also the connections of this agglomeration of big volumes within the city.
ellos me hicieron esta maqueta conceptual. Entonces ellos dijeron, no, el campus y los edificios estudiantiles están edificios enormes, grandes, entonces eso es la importancia y hay que conectar estos edificios entre sí y también conectar esos edificios con la ciudad.
So that's their design model. As you see, they still kept the idea of having big volumes. We're not sure if the spacing between the models is right, and they had quite some issues to work with like huge volumes for like young students. It was very hard, but that was their design, and it had quite some nice aspects in it.
Aquí vimos la maqueta final. Ellos sí dijeron que quizás difícilmente para ver que ellos añadieron otros edificios grandes y para jóvenes alumnos a veces no está tan fácil para trabajar con espacios y estructuras tan grandes, pero no obstante este proyecto también tuvo sus aspectos positivos.
These some exploded drawings of the different types, and all of them have the issue to create public space and get a connection between exterior and interior spaces, as you will see in the next slide.
Aquí vemos algunas tipologías de los edificios y todos los edificios, todas las tipologías trataban de la relación interior-exterior.
That's again a picture of the master plan.
Esto nuevamente es una imagen del plan maestro.
And going to the focus, you can see how they try to interweave the different sort of spaces and create a new kind of urbanity that also connects to the river with stairs. And the main aspect in their design is the central staircase, which takes you through the campus, but also offers the opportunity for institutional buildings to be accessed via this central staircase and aspect of the design.
Para ellos el elemento central fue la escalera fue la relación directa de la planta baja hacia arriba, del espacio público hacia arriba, también para estos edificios administrativos de la universidad.
Well, that's it. That's our homepage. If you're interested in more information, and as you know, there's an exchange program between TU Munich and your university, and we were really interested to keep that going.
Okay, eso es la página internet. Esto es el fin de la presentación. Eso es la página internet de la Universidad Técnica de Múnich. Ellos quisieran mencionar que hay una cooperación. En el año pasado estuvieron diferentes alumnos de Múnich aquí y también de nosotros en Múnich. Nuevamente hay 3 alumnos de la Universidad de la UAM Azcapotzalco en Múnich y estamos muy interesados que esta cooperación podría seguir en pie y esperamos que les interesa.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.